All right, so hello, dinos. Today we're here to talk about Blaise Pascal and his work Thoughts. So this is in the theme of wisdom and folly, looking at how his works represent the idea of wisdom within his time frame. So Pascal's work bears witness to the kind of intense loneliness that is, the world of rationality. As much as I hate the idea of heaven and hell, and the afterlife, I think what he's really pointing out is that, in a time of intense poverty and intense, subjugation of people, the idea of an afterlife is just like it's a very, maybe it's like a survival tactic, for those whose lives were so shitty that the promise of happiness one day, it was just essential. Like, he talks about the necessity of hope for the human spirit, and I think that that's what he's trying to really get at, is that wisdom is so much about, like, in a way, survival. It's about finding things that you can believe in that will help you survive this life. And, conversely, maybe the idea of hell was essential because, it was just a reassuring thought that for those who had wronged you or had done you harm, you want vengeance in this life. And a kind of like, hell was reassuring because it's like, don't go attack this person, don't go kill them, don't go kill their children to get back at them. Put aside your anger, they'll burn forever one day, kind of deal. And why not? I mean, rationality is sort of like a tool and, very much a safeguard against life and change. It's based on a singular construction of an individual's perspective. It's definitely fallible and definitely flimsy. And like, how many people have had their entire world turned upside down, Murphy's Law style? It's basing your life on the world around you and on people's perceptions of you can be very, very damaging. And in a very harsh manner, I think what Pascal's trying to say here, dinos, is that we should abandon this pretense of superiority and just accept that you'll probably die alone. You'll face your humanity and face your flaws, and ditch buying things with money you don't have to impress people you don't like. So Pascal says, let us reflect on this and say whether it is not beyond doubt that there is no good in this life but in the hope of another, that we are only happy in proportion as we draw near it, and that as there are no more woes for those who have complete assurance of eternity, so there is no more happiness for those who have no insight into it. So what he's saying here is that, we have to have some sort of insight into our place in eternity. We have to, that's where it draws from happiness, is that, where we are and where we stand in the universe is such a source of, happiness, contentment, validation in our lives. He further says, they are made to understand that they cannot be happy unless their health, their honor, their fortune, and that their friends be in good condition, and that a single thing wanting will make them unhappy. I love that line, that, a single thing wanting will make them unhappy. How volatile your sense of self is in that, like, if you feel that one thing is absent, that one thing is absent from your life, that you're going to be unhappy. That's, if I don't have an iPhone, my life isn't happy. If I don't have this job I want, my life isn't happy. It's very much basing our sense of self in like the day-to-day experience. Truly, it is an evil to be full of faults, but it is still a greater evil to be full of them and be unwilling to recognize them. ... Thus, when they discover only the imperfections and vices which we have, it is plain they do us no wrong, since it is not they who cause them, Rather, they do us good, since they help us to free ourselves from an evil, namely the imperfection, namely the ignorance of these imperfections. Last year I was on a pilgrimage in northern Spain, and I was with these three people, and one of them was an ex-priest slash canon law professor. And we were talking about Catholicism and just sort of keeping a dialogue going. I ran into them on the trail, and what he said is that, people mistake Catholicism as being this thing that's like right or wrong, and this idea of confession is about your guilt and like, driving home this sense of like, you've done wrong, da, da, da. But what he said was that that's not the case at all, that confession and alleviating yourself of your guilt isn't about, leaving yourself of the things you've done wrong isn't about sentencing you. It's not about passing judgment. It's about acknowledging the things in your life that you've done wrong and finding a greater sense of humanity. That's always stuck with me. And, I read that when I read what Pascal's saying, and I totally get where he's coming from, because I totally agree with that. That when you can honestly look at yourself for exactly who you are, it is so much more freeing. And finally, we should seek the truth without hesitation, and if we refuse it, we show that we value the esteem of men more than the search for truth. And, I 100% agree with Pascal's idea of getting to know your humanity. Mostly because, for me, I find the more human I feel, the more human I look at, the more I see everybody else around me as being human. The more accepting I am of their faults, of their mistakes. I'm more forgiving, patient, loving, tolerant. So I think that in this, when I feel human and I recognize myself as a flawed creature that is both good and bad, I can see that in everybody else. And it doesn't make me hate them, it makes me love them, because they are like me and we're the same. And I stopped playing this game of competitive spirituality where it's like, who am I compared to that person? Is that person smarter than me? Is that girl prettier than me? Is that guy paying more attention to that? It's very shallow and it's very callous, and it's not somebody I like to be. It's not somebody I want to be. I become very outcome oriented. Did I get what I want? Is that a sign of my life, the value of my life, whether or not I got what I want? No, that's not who I want to be. I want to be the kind of person who, no matter what I get in life, my attitude towards it dictates who I am. Because shit will happen no matter what in my life. But I want to have the kind of attitude that can roll with the punches. And I find that the less human I feel, the further I feel from that sense of universal connection, my concept of God. And in talking about this, what it really makes me think of is that scene in Saving Private Ryan when Tom Hanks's character is talking about how he used to be a teacher. If you haven't seen it, sorry, whoops. But he's like, he talks about how every mission he has brings him closer to home because he's just done one more thing that could potentially bring him home to his wife. But also every mission he does makes him feel further and further from home. For me, when I try and define my sense of self and who I am in my life based on the material things that I do and what I'm able to accomplish in like an external sense, the things I think will make me happier and the awards I want and stuff like that, that's when I feel further and further from home. And the fact that I'm usually not happy when I get it, I'm confronted with the fact that, I've tried to do something very specific to fill my life and make me happy. And it's that pursuit of happiness as if it's a tangible thing that will be complete once I have a certain pay scale, job, award, notification, that's the thing that will make me happy is the great folly, the chasing happiness as if it were a rabbit. It's like greyhounds around a track. That's me. A lot, not a lot of the time, but some of the time. So, yeah, that's all I got for you on Blaise Pascal and Wisdom and Folly. Later, dinos!